Hello. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Traci Bautista Color and the Palette Party Live events today. I am so thrilled that you are here. We've had a couple of days of really fun live streams, and today I'm going to take you a little behind the scenes and share how a Traci Bautista Color collection is created, and just kind of give you an overview of the process, because it is a bit of an involved process. There is a lot that goes into the making of one collection. And when I first started Traci Bautista Color back in 2017, yesterday was the 6th birthday or anniversary. I don't know if you celebrate a birthday or anniversary for a product line. But yesterday was the 6th anniversary, 6 years. And when I first started, I was making paint collections every month, and it was still based on a theme and an idea, but it was a very shortened process. And now I make collections 4 times a year, seasonally. And then I have 2, sometimes 3 one-time collection boxes that I produce during the year. So today I'm going to pull back the curtain and give you a little preview of how my collections come to life. And hopefully it's insightful. Hopefully you understand the process of how I think about the collections. It's not just paint that's just like randomly whipped up. There is a whole process that goes into each and every one of the boxes that goes out, and I have prepared a slide deck to show you, but I'm also probably going to switch back and forth to my desktop camera just to show you a few things. So let's see who's here. If you're watching in Crowdcast, I think actually you can, I don't know if you can comment in there. I embedded the video inside there just in case. Yesterday, if you were here, I told you that they are changing the platform a little bit. So they're moving to a different version. And since I started this event in a couple days ago, the new version is not hosting this. So welcome if you're here watching in Crowdcast. And for those of you who have joined me on YouTube Live, welcome. I see we have a handful of people. And hey, Lynn from Phoenix, Sandra, thank you. She said happy anniversary. Yeah, I shared a few posts yesterday that showed the some of the very first collections that I designed for Traci Bautista Color. So if you go to my Instagram stories, you can see, I think they might be up still. I don't know if it's been 24 hours or not. But I shared a few of the very first ink collections and my very first set of watercolors, which look very different from what I sell now. And I am going to take you just through a few slides and talk a little bit about the process. So this week is to celebrate the launch of my new Pigment Bar BOX subscription. So if you want to join that, there is a link underneath the video in Crowdcast, and there's also a link in the description on YouTube Live, and you can get all the information. Today is the final day for the early bird bonuses. So if you want to get those, if you become a subscriber by this evening at 11:59 p.m., which is September 1st, you will get a 10 milliliter bottle of ink with your first box and a bonus ink. And if you subscribe to the yearly option, which is 1 payment versus 4 payments during the year, then you get an additional set of wax pastels. So with your first box. And there's a lot of fun other bonuses that come as with being a member or subscriber for any of my subscription Traci Bautista color subscriptions. So if you want to find out what those are, make sure you go visit that link before today so you can get your bonuses. It will be open and available probably for a few more days. My close, we're gonna close the cart on September 5th unless we sell out before, and I think I'm pretty close to selling out. So definitely, if you want to join me, please do. If not, no worries. I would love for you to still be here and share in all of the goodies that I am going to be doing today, and talking about and just kind of giving you this behind the scenes peek into how a collection is designed and made and developed and sold. It is a big, long process, and there's a lot of moving pieces for this, for my handmade and handcrafted artisanal water media, mixed media, watercolors products. So let me switch. How's everybody doing today? Have you been doing any fun things in your sketchbook or journal? I'd love to know. Let's see. Let me switch my desk to the Canva. Let me just get Canva up here really quick. And I may need to move so I can see the chat, but I think this is going to be good. Okay, here we go. So I prepared a little deck here. Let me present this so that you don't see all the other things that are on there. And let me just bring up actually, hold on. I just need to move this really quick and grab another window so I can see you all over here. There we go. I just want to make sure I can see the chat. And then we'll go back. Okay. Hello. Oh, hold on. Welcome. Hi, everyone. I hear myself somewhere. Welcome to Traci Bautistacolor and the Party Live. Okay. There we go. I found which window was talking to me. Okay, let's go in and dive into Canva so you can see this presentation. So if you got my email this morning, you'll know that I wrote a little snippet in there about how it's not just mixing paint and shipping them out the door. There is a whole really beautiful creative process that goes into making a collection. And I'm going to take you through that process. So for those of you, if you're new to me, I know because we're on YouTube, there may be some of you who do not know who I am or are just coming to me maybe through social media or here through YouTube. So I have been teaching and I have been designing and developing products for almost 20 years. My name is Traci Bautista, and I have also written three mixed media books. I've taught over 35,000 students online and in person over the last 20 years. I've been teaching online for 12 years, so it's been a very long journey. I launched Traci Bautistacolor in 2017, so I have developed over 350 colors, thousands of individual pigment bars and watercolor pens and inks and all of the fun stuff. And I license and design products for a number of manufacturers. I've designed stencils for Stencil Girl, and stamps for Stampington, and I have a line of collage glue called Collage Page that you can find at many craft stores and art stores. And I've been designing digital products for over 15 years. So that's just a little bit about me. You can always find me on Instagram at Traci Designs. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the process of how I develop and design these collections. So on the screen here, you see some of the inspiration behind. This was one of the collections was this last year? I think this was 2022. Wild Blooms was in 2022, and like the late spring, summer collection of 2022. And I pulled together just a bunch of different things that kind of highlight some of the pieces that I go through when I design a collection. So on the left, you see a lot of the finished product, but there is this whole process of gathering inspiration. This particular collection was inspired by a trip that I took to Giverny in France, to Monet's garden. And so these are photographs that I took in the garden and used those to inspire some of the mark making. So I did a lot of sketching, both in my physical sketchbook and in Procreate, in my digital sketchbook. And then I developed a color palette and the products to revolve around the story of this enchanting visit that I had in the garden. And so, I'm gonna hear the siren there. So a lot of my collections start off with ideation, and you may be thinking, well, what is that? And if you're not familiar with that term, it is basically what you do to think up ideas and brainstorm and explore. Sorry, it's really loud. My window is open. Hold on, hopefully they'll pass by. Okay. It is the process of exploration and concept development. So here in this set of pictures, you see an inspiration board and some of the colors that I am thinking about for this particular collection. This is, the middle picture is the spring set of pigment bars that I designed, and then to the right is a color palette inspired by that, and also the Nature's Graffiti collection. So I use both traditional and digital methods to document my process and to really help me design the final outcome. And there is this whole kind of beginning process where I might be using mind maps or just sketching out ideas and writing. I do a lot of writing where I'm not writing, like huge long stories, but a lot of like writing down words, ideas, phrases that have to revolve around, that have to do with the theme. And so I usually will choose an idea or theme and then make a mind map from there. And then that kind of gives me the story behind the collection. So I'll then take those ideas and either write little blurbs that I can use in the description for the products, or I can use in my social media. And now with ChatGPT, I also use that as an assistant. And I'll put in some of my own ideas and then kind of brainstorm with ChatGPT for maybe descriptions, or just to kind of enhance what I'm already thinking about for my collection process or for the collection I'm developing. So that chat GPT portion just started earlier this year because I just started playing with it earlier this year, and it's really such a great tool to help with the research and the gathering after I've had kind of these ideas in my head. So during that ideation phase, I talked a little bit about what it is, writing and brainstorming ideas. I also will think about packaging ideas, and if I need to design something specific for that particular collection, then there is a bunch of a little bit more brainstorming that goes on. And I like to create these digital inspiration boards. So here on the left is a board that I created for one of the collections, and just playing with, this was I think the colors were from the Forever Chasing Sunsets collection. And then a lot of these will then get put on to my physical inspiration wall in my studio. So that I have this wall to refer to. It's got color palettes. It's got things that I have collected that are for the idea for the collection. And sometimes I have printouts of of the color palettes that I've pulled. I also love to go on a photo inspiration journey. How many of you do that with your own work? Do you go out and take photographs? A lot of what I design for my paint collections is really inspired by memories and travel and ideas and stories and things I've encountered on my travels. So a lot of times I will incorporate that into the final collection. And here I have just a little bit more insight into how I develop. So I will also gather the photographs, and these two digital pieces on the left and the right are inside of a program called Note Shelf, where it's basically like a digital notebook. And so you can drag and drop photographs, you can drag and drop motifs like PNG files, and you can write inside of Note Shelf. So there are very many times where I will continue to do some of that brainstorming inside of a program like Note Shelf. And also I use Apple Notes on my phone or Notion. And if I'm doing some digital, like I don't have my sketchbook with me, then I can also do that in a digital format. The middle picture is a digital inspiration board, a mood board for the Magnolia collection, which was a collection I designed in 2021. So that particular collection was inspired by all the beautiful magnolia trees that were in my backyard and in the neighborhood where I live. And that collage I created inside of Procreate. So I use the iPad and Procreate quite a bit, even before I start designing the actual collection. And then from there, I will, once I have these ideas in mind and I have that collection, then I start to pull color palettes. These are some of the photographs. I just wanted to gather some photographs. These were some of the photographs that were for the Forever Chasing Sunsets collection, and really inspired by the beautiful sunsets when I'm traveling, and even in my own backyard. But that collection was so much fun because being by the beach and catching the sunset is one of my favorite things. So this on the left is another kind of just a representation of a color palette. So oftentimes I'll take the photographs I've taken. These were all from Monet's garden. And then I'll pull a digital color palette and that will kind of help me jumpstart the colors or the color palette for the actual physical paint collection. So I'll use that kind of as my reference, and then I start mixing paint after I've done this this work. So in this next slide, I am sharing the Nature's Graffiti collection. This was my most recent Traci Bautista color collection, and it's inspired by just the beautiful graffiti that you see within nature. So this could be the tree trunks. It's not like the literal graffiti on the wall. It's really like what nature has in its own natural graffiti. And so that particular collection came about from that theme. And so you see some of those on here. I just noticed there's a wild blooms picture there too. I forgot to drag a new picture in there, but you see I'm really experimenting with color palettes here in the center. This is a digital collage I created in Procreate before I created the actual paint collection. And then I took this this middle photo here, which has a bunch of my hand painted papers. And what I did was I gathered a bunch of my work and used some of those to inspire the color palette that I wanted for this particular collection. So it was a fun exercise because I think it's a great way to go back through your own work also and then pull pieces of it. And I was then able to create this kind of collage on my wall so that it was the jumpstart for that particular collection. And if you have any questions, let me know. You can put them in the chat. And I have just a handful more slides, and we'll talk a little bit more. Oop, I think I skipped something. Hold on. This thing is so... let's go here. We're all the way over here. Okay. Yeah, I pressed the wrong part of the screen. And so I talked a little bit about that whole ideation process, and then the next thing that I love to do is research and gather more ideas. So I will scour through books. I love the bookstore and also the library. I will thumb through and read through a variety of books to just kind of give me some more ideas as I design the collection. And I write about the collection. We talked about ChatGPT. And then I also plan out the calendar for the collection and all the different pieces that need to happen for it to launch and for it to be shipped on a particular time frame. And again, I talked about Procreate color palettes already. So finally, we get to the design process. And this is where all of the color magic happens. So once I have those color palettes and the idea behind the collection, the color palettes I pulled from either the photos that I've taken or some of my artwork, I then start to mix the paint colors. And so there is a whole, like, before I actually make it, there's a whole thing with sourcing pigments and finding the exact pigments that I want to use. I shop in various places when I travel. I purchased a ton of pigments from quarries in France and from Australia when I was traveling out there. And then a lot, nowadays you can order anything online. So I have sourced lots of different pigments from all over the place. And then I choose one color to start with. And then from there, that color builds out the entire color palette. And so while I'm making paint, I usually am kind of playing around with the color recipes. I have a handmade, for my watercolors, I have a handmade, all of them have handmade binders. But for my watercolors, I have to make the binder. And also for my inks, I make the binder and then mix in the pigments. And so those colors then get recorded in my paint making journals. And I'll show you a couple of those. I'll switch to my camera in a minute. And let me grab one of them while we are here. There's so many. They're doing a bunch of work outside and it is loud. Okay, I see one over there, and then I'm gonna grab this. I think this is one. Yeah, here's one. Okay, let's see. Let me switch to my camera. Have any of you ever made your own paints before? Has anybody taken my pigment to paint class? That's a fun class. If you want to learn how to make your own paints, I highly suggest my pigment to paint class. There are a few different ones. I teach one where it's you learn how to make paint, clay paint. There are there's one where I teach you how to make pigment sticks. Okay, this was what was left over from yesterday, and actually I was playing with more stencils yesterday and the pigment bars on this thinner paper because I wanted to test it out. But I think what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna put this over here because I'm lazy. I don't want to take time to move everything. Inside some of my paint making journals, this is kind of what happens as I'm developing the process or the products. I swatch them out onto a variety of journals. So yesterday I showed a bunch of my journals and sketchbooks and talk through some of that process when I did some of those flip throughs. This is the Lani Kai collection. This was actually probably my favorite to design, and it was probably actually the most popular collection I've ever designed. This was created in the fall, like late summer, early fall of 2021, and this is just some of the colors that you find in that collection. Lani Kai is a beautiful area in Oahu that is very close to where my family lives out there. And so I love that beach. It's one of my favorite places. I go there every day when I'm visiting. It's right in the backyard. So I just spend the morning meditating. Sometimes I bring the sketchbook and journals. So this particular journal has lots of the color from that collection. And you can see there was lots of greens and blues in that one. There was these beautiful beautiful blue, this kind of the Man O' War ink, which was one of my favorites. So I will also swatch out my pigment stones. This is the Forever Chasing Sunset. So I have sketchbooks that are just filled with swatches because this is what I do as I'm developing the collection and designing each color. So I'm playing with the collection and then also mixing media. I did a little bit of swatching yesterday, so you probably if you were here, you got to see that unfold. And then I just kind of play with different techniques in my paint making journal. So those are kind of like, those record the story of a collection. And then I have ones where I actually write a little bit more about the colors that I designed. I don't keep exact color recipes, but it's kind of far, too close. But I will write down pigments that I use. So here is like the Lani Kai collection. This is some of those Man O' War inks that are here, and I loved making this. I think I actually made a clay paint in this particular collection. So more of the swatches in this one. And this whole journal is lots of my inks and paints. And then sometimes I will pull the Pantone colors. This was a botanical ink collection that I made back in 2019. So this was all natural dye inks from avocado, ochre. So it's pretty good. This was 2019. So what's that? 4 years ago? 21, 22, 23. 5 years ago? 5 years ago. And these were the colors that the eucalyptus was so pretty. I have these huge eucalyptus trees in the neighborhood, and I made ink from that. So this really documents the process. Sometimes I'll do a little swatching in here. Let me see if I can find one that doesn't give away like too much info. This particular paint, this is where I write down things that are important about a collection. So I'll also play with doing different techniques. So varying the amount of water. So playing with washes and dropping the color in, and then mixing with different paints, either inks or watercolors. And then I also use my reactive crystals on here, so you can kind of see some of the gradations and the variations in color. And like here, this is what I'll do. Like this says manganese black. It has a warm sienna. And these are all abbreviations from where I got the pigments. This has also caput mortem and a copper fine mica. And that's what I'll do. I'll just write the names of the pigments that I use and not so much the ratios. There's once in a while I will write ratios. This particular book is from like 2020, and I think it's my 2020 and 2021. No, maybe it's only 20. It goes up to 2020. This is the Kaleidoscope collection of inks. This was really pretty. And then some more of my avocado ink experiments. So I also love working with natural inks. And so this was with eucalyptus ash. This is with, I'm gonna read my writing, iron and alum. So you get to see all the variations when you put the modifiers in. This one I love. This was avocado and iron. It makes this like texture thing there. And I also mixed the ink with ochre I foraged on a hike through Oakland Hills. And then I experimented with the avocado ink and added a variety of pigments, and I really love this one. This was, what does it say? Mixed in palette with ink stain. I don't know what ink stain it was. I added ochre to this one. So it's I think this was the Australian ochre, which I got when I was in Melbourne. It was a beautiful kind of brownish red. And my paint making journals really are that documentation of the process. And so I hope that gives you a little insight into just how that portion, or up to that portion of how a collection is developed. I have a little bit more slide deck to show you, but I wanted just to give you a peek inside the paint making journals because they are so much fun to thumb through. I wonder, I often wonder like what will happen with them from like 100 years from now. Like if somebody randomly finds them. Hopefully one of my nieces will carry on making paint. But I have probably like 4 of those big books. Yesterday I showed another one of my more recent paint making journals, sketchbooks, and they're just these like beautiful treasures because it really documents every mark that's made. And as I'm testing out, especially with the inks, because the way that I make ink is I make the binder and then I choose the pigment that goes in it, but I have to continually test it to make sure it's got the right ratio so I can get the most intense color that I want for my inks. So that's why these paint making journals that I showed you are so much fun. I have probably about I don't know, 6 or 7 of these books that are filled just with lines and marks, because it's all documenting how I'm building out the collection. So it's really such a fun process. And if you've never tried to make your own paint before, I really encourage you to do it once or twice. You'll have such a different connection to your work, especially if you forage the color. And there's so many beautiful stories you can tell from the landscapes if you want to develop color and paint from a particular region or a place in your backyard or a place that you travel to. Being able to take those colors from the earth and actually translate them into paints is such a magical thing. It's hard to explain until you actually do it. And today actually was kind of fun. Before I came here, I just finished at the gym, and I did my workout. And as I was going back to my car, across the street were these huge sunflowers. I mean, like 12 feet tall sunflowers. I mean, so beautiful. And the gardener, he's like the main, I don't know, he was the, I guess, gardener, and he takes care of the building. But these were in the middle of the street. Like it was a sidewalk garden. And so I was taking photographs and video, and I'll probably share it on my Instagram in the next few days. But I stopped there, and he was talking to somebody, and then finally he saw me, and he's like, "Oh, do you like my flowers?" I said, "Oh, they're so beautiful. They were incredible." And here, let me see if I can pull out the picture. And what I was talking to him maybe for about 10 minutes, and here you can see. But this, I should step back and take it from far away. I mean, so you can see the whole thing. I'll have to do that when I go to the gym tomorrow, so you can actually see how tall they were. But somebody had he's like, I think some kids came through and a bunch of the branches were on the floor. So he was gathering them up, and I told him, and there was a bunch of in that one plot, there was a bunch of other flowers. And I said, you have an amazing dye garden, ink garden right here. He had coreopsis, he had marigolds, he had the sunflowers. There was a couple of other ones that you could totally turn all of them into paint and ink. And so I was telling him this, and he's like, "Are you an artist?" And so we talked a little bit, and then he's like, "Well, do you want to take some of these?" So I have some of the sunflowers that I'm going to let them go to seed, but then I'm also going to take them and use them to create paint and ink. So it's those kinds of things where, those little stories that become part of a collection or part of your artwork that I think is such a great way to infuse what you love and the things that you are attracted to into the work that you do, not only in the marks that you make or in the things that you paint, but if you want to take it a step further and learn how to make your own paint. Okay, let me see, just a couple more slides. And this was some of the holiday collection from last year. So those of you who are part of the subscription, you will get access to this. I do have a few, once in a while, I will do a one-time box for the holiday collection. But if you're part of the Pigment Bar box, you will get the set of holiday pigment bars. Guaranteed if you're part of the subscription. So this is my most popular collection usually during the year, and it's definitely one of my funnest to make. It's just so vibrant and fun and really encapsulates the holidays in a paint. So this was the Sugar Plum Fairy collection from 2022. Okay, so we talked about the collection design process. I showed a little bit about into my paint making journals and how I document the process. And they're not only with making the paint collection, the actual physical making of the paint collection, there is the whole design process of the things that go with the paint collection. So if you are a member of any of my subscriptions, when I do my quarterly live workshop, you get a playbook that has swatch cards and more inspiration behind the collection. And it is something where you can print or you can use digitally, but there's swatch cards, and then you can actually swatch your paints onto them. And so there's that whole design process for that, where you don't really think about, like, when you develop something like that to sell, there's all these little bonuses and extras that you have to design if you want your products to be a little bit different. So this is a big part of the design design portion of a collection. So there is the whole side of the website and my shop. So there's a lot that goes into designing a collection page. And if you've never been to my website, I'll show you one of the collection pages. Let's go to, we'll go to the Nature's Graffiti one. Let me see. Let me switch this really quick and just show you, because I think that just to give you an understanding of, like, all of the things that go into making these. Oh, good, it's already on the page I need. Making these collections. So under Paint and Ink, you can actually go back and see a lot of my collections from the previous years. All of these are sold out, but I leave them up there so that for somebody who's new, if they've never seen my work or seen my paints, they get an idea of what goes into each of the collections. So I design all of this, all the photographs, all the words, everything that you see in my shop. I've developed my own website and do all the things. But if you don't have that capability, you can definitely hire people. So I design a collection page and all the videos for every collection, and you get kind of an insight into how things are made, how you can use the particular products. And then I write usually a little story or a little blurb. And most of these are like some of the things that I've brainstormed in that whole ideation phase. So when you go down, you can actually see more insights into the collection development. So here on the right, that is one of the pictures of the inspiration behind the collection, and then swatches from some of the actual paints and pigment bars in the collection. So all of this is part of designing a collection. So this is that whole design process that I am talking about. It's not only the paints and making the paints. There is all of the story that goes behind every collection. So again, here's one of my favorites, the Lani Kai collection. If you haven't seen this collection, I recommend going back here when you get a chance and listening to this video. It talks a lot about the process, and you get snapshots of what the inspiration is behind. And I also show inside some of my journals and sketchbooks. I did a lot of work in my sketchbook for this particular collection. Let's see if I play this. You can kind of see a little behind the scenes peek. So all of this is part of that design. I also try to talk a little bit about techniques, so how you can use the inks and the watercolors and everything that's part of a collection, and just gives you kind of a really good overview of what is inside. So, one more section in my presentation, and then I can take some questions. Let's go back here. And so once this design portion of the collection is complete, there's a lot of making, playing, and testing. So I have here on the right, you see a bunch of different papers. I talked about this yesterday. I love to make sure I test on all kinds of different paper, from watercolor to mixed media to different textures to really thin papers to recycled papers, because I want to get a feel for how the products perform on a variety of substrates and surfaces, because I love to use all those different things in my work. And so I want to show that to everybody who is interested in the paints and inks. And then there's a big part of any collection or any product that somebody makes is, how do you get it out there for people to see? So a lot of that goes to a lot of the photographs. So all these photographs you see that I've taken in here show that process. And I really try to document and share the process as I'm developing the products, so that it gives a good overall arc to the story that I'm trying to tell with a collection. And some of the graphics that I design for a particular collection. So there is a lot of storytelling that I do in my social media, in my live events. And then there is creating the posts and taking the photographs. And then there's lots of email, writing out captions, writing out emails, writing out Instagram snippets, and designing reels and creating videos and editing videos, and just sharing the whole sneak peek behind a collection and sharing the creative process. And for me, it's one of my favorite ways to connect with my audience, is to share everything that I've been doing and developing for that collection. And I'm not always sharing everything, but I try to share bits and pieces of what I am creating as I'm creating it. And it just shows, kind of like I said, that journey as I'm developing it. And finally, the last thing, which is actually another important factor into how a product is made and sold, is packaging. I love packaging. It was one of my favorite classes that I took as in my major. My major in college is graphic design, and my packaging class, this was in the early to mid 90s, so it was a long time ago. But my packaging class was one of my favorites. And it's funny, I remember back then, I was still so into that natural recycled cardboard look. I did a lot of my that class, and I also took a visual display class where I created lots of interesting window displays. It was an elective that I took for my major, and I always came back to that craft paper look. I just loved it. Anything natural, woven, linen, and craft. And so that has carried on, fast forward 30 years later, into the packaging that I've designed for my own products. And one of my really core values for my company is sustainability. And I am very conscious about the packaging and the products I develop. I mean, it's why I haven't taken this to manufacture, like thousands, mass manufacture, like working with a manufacturer. It's also why I choose to use recycled materials and things that you can recycle yourself and reuse. So I have a video that I share with my subscribers that shows how you can recycle the packaging, and I really encourage that. It's one of my favorite things to really get people to do is to reuse and recycle the packaging in a way that they can use it in their own artwork. So the final thing in designing a collection is packing and packaging. And I have every collection kind of has a little iteration on the original, and everything is hand done. From the stamping you see on the packaging to the labels are all hand painted, to all of the individual bars when they are wrapped are hand stamped. So it is definitely a labor of love. And this, you can see a bunch of the boxes that we're getting ready to ship for one of the collections. I think this was one of the holiday collections last year. And lots that goes into packaging with printing box inserts. So actually the designing of the inserts and the things that go inside a box, to printing out the shipping labels, and then hand painting labels, and finding really unique packaging or ways to package things so that hopefully they won't break. And then it goes to shipping out that final box. So after all of the ideation, the gathering, the research, the actual making and designing and packaging, then that final box is delivered. So you can see it is such a beautiful and long process because there's lots of moving parts to it. During the, hold on, let me close my window. They are doing, the landscapers are outside. During a product development and launch cycle for each of these collections, it probably takes anywhere from 2 to 3 months, especially because some, like the watercolors, take a long time to dry, and it also depends on the weather. So luckily, like nowadays, right now it's not humid, but if it's super humid, then it'll take longer for paints to dry. And so, but the from idea to final collection to getting it shipped out the door usually is between 2 or 3 months, because of all of the different things that I do and that I've shared in this process. So I hope that you enjoyed a little peek into this. After the box is shipped, then another thing that I end up doing is doing more videos and making more videos to share that. And then there is that quarterly workshop that I do for each collection. And so the summer quarterly workshop is actually coming up in a week and a half or so. And that is a really fun live session where I share a little bit more about the inspiration behind the collection, and I do a little bit of mixed media paint swatching, and usually share some fun mixed media technique so that you get an understanding of how you can use the paints with some of the other materials that you probably have already in your studio. So I think that was the end of my, I have one more little surprise. Let's see. Denise, hi, she says, they are really beautiful. It makes me want to collage with them. I am wondering when you made that comment. I think she probably made it before. And so lastly, I am going to share, I said that I have a little sneak peek of the next collection. And for those of you who are in my swatch studio, you have gotten to see a little peek at this. My swatch studio is a monthly digital inspiration board and PDF playbook that you get based on a theme. There's lots of prompts and photographs and story prompts, some reflection questions, all for your sketchbook and art journal. And there's also, if you are part of the Swatch Studio Flare kit, this was the first installment of that. So I think most people, I don't think I have too many spoiler alerts. These were the first kits that went out, and they were so much fun. Inside here, this one is, let's see if I can open this without making a mess, but this has some of the imagery and collage papers I designed that inspired the collection. And then, there are also swatches of my custom designed fabrics that go with the theme. And then a collection of lots of goodies and flair. Swatches of vintage finds, there's beads, there's lots of different things that go into these little kits. But this is also how I the things I use for inspiration for developing a collection. So this was the Nature's Graffiti kit that went out. That's a quarterly subscription. And I wanted to just show you that because that is part of kind of the next step of what I'm going to show you in the, let's go back here, and on here, the next collection is this really beautiful boho vibes inspired collection. So it's got these really fun, really deep blue colors, some kind of orangey colors, but and some really beautiful neutrals. It's a perfect kind of neutral fall palette, and I'll be sharing more sneaks inside that too. But if you're part of the Swatch Studio, you got a sneak peek of that board. And that was kind of the beginnings for this. It's inspired by that bohemian lifestyle, and also a little bit incorporated into kind of the bohemian lifestyle by the sea. So there's a little twist in there that I'm going to be kind of incorporating kind of this bohemian coastal vibe in it. It'll be really, really beautiful. And I'm excited about it. It will be lots of fun. So that's a little sneak peek. And let's see. Oh, Denise said when I was showing the swatches, yes, you could totally use those for collage. And that actually is a really great idea. If you make your own swatches, you can print them or take photographs of them and print them out and then use them in your collage work for sure. It's always a lot of fun. So again, thank you so much. If you want to join me for the Pigment Bar box, the brand new Pigment Bar box, I am going to have registration open for new members until the 5th, unless it sells out, and we are very close to selling out. So if you want to join me, there is a quarterly option where you can sign up and pay quarterly. So that's 4 times a year. And you get a set of pigment bars. So this was, well, I think I took out the other color that was in here. Where'd I put it? Something like this. This is the Nature's Graffiti collection. So if you look at that, there are at least 8 colors, and plus probably a little bit more because there's also colors embedded in each bar. So you get the duotone bars, and as a subscriber, there's a subscriber only mixed media product or tool that you get in your subscription box. So sometimes that'll be a handcrafted bottle of ink. It could be a custom designed stamp or stencil. It also could be another one of my Traci Bautistacolor products. So every collection will have that extra mixed media tool or supply in it. Plus, you get access to the quarterly collections and a brand new community that you can share your work. It's a private community that you'll be able to share your work in, ask questions, and I'll be giving behind the scenes peeks into what I'm designing and what is coming up. So I would love to have you join me as a member inside of the Pigment Bar box, and that way you are guaranteed to get all of my sold out collections. Every time I launch something, somebody always messages me or writes me on Instagram and says, why, like, every time I go to your site, everything is sold out. And that's because I make everything in very limited quantities, and the subscription is first. So if you are in the subscription, it's guaranteed that you will get all of the collection boxes that are part of the subscription. I do also create a few one-time boxes every year, and you will get first dibs on those for access to those if you want to grab one of those when those come out. So I usually do one in the summer and sometime in the spring and around sometime in the fall holiday. So and they vary. Sometimes it's like the box of all of the mixed media goodies, and sometimes it's just like one product. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat, or you can also DM me on Instagram. It's the best way to get a response. I can give you a voice message on Instagram. It's a lot easier than email for me. Let's see. Denise said, could you leave a link to the collage paper subscription? Yes, I will put that in the chat. And also, it's a digital subscription, and this one right now is a quarterly, the one that's the printed. It's fabric and paper inside this, and it's fun. I'm going to show a couple of videos of how I'm using this because there's a lot of fun stuff. There's some vintage like yo-yos that I found at the antique fair. There's some beautiful vintage ribbon. It's like this really, I don't know, it's like that wide ribbon. It's really pretty. And lots of things that I just find. I love collecting different fabrics, and so these are from like all over the world, and also from just like random places that I visit where I'm like, oh, that would be awesome as just a little snippet. And that's what this is. It's like this little snippet of pieces that you can put together in collage, or put them on a inspiration board, or put them onto a sketchbook or art journal page. So thank you, everybody. If you missed any of my previous live streams, please go back into either Crowdcast or on YouTube Live. You can watch. Tomorrow, if you're around, I will be teaching at Wonderlust Live, 1:00 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube Live. So you can just come right back. You can also set a reminder. So if you go to, let's see if I can find it. Let me get out of the presentation really quick. I'll just show you, just in case you've never done that, because the only downside for YouTube is that it doesn't give you like reminders unless you set them. So when you go to YouTube, let me just share this with you really quick, and this will be my last thing, unless somebody has questions. Wait, that's not the one you want to see. Hold on. Let me go back. Let's go here. Okay, let's try this again. So if you ever want to give yourself a reminder. I don't know. This is also definitely, it'll just send you a reminder via email. So all you have to do is go to the live tab here, And then you can see if I have any other lives scheduled. The only one scheduled is this upcoming. So you can actually click notify me here, or you can also click into a live, and then there's this little thing here that says notify me also. And then you can click on to that too. So Wanderlust Live started actually today. I'm not sure what the schedule is, but there's a link inside that video. So if you go to that video, in the description, there's a link and you can sign up for free. There are, I think, 20 teachers from Wanderlust 24 that are teaching in it. So I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And tomorrow I am teaching a workshop called Water Media Play, painting expressive florals in your art journal or sketchbook. I mean, that's the long-winded title. I know it's like a little bit more concise. It's Water Media Play Expressive Florals Art Journaling. That's what the title is. So I'll be sharing how I paint with the pigment bars and various media to create these really beautiful bouquet, kind of abstract florals inside of my art journal. So I think I'm actually going to paint inside one of my handmade art journals tomorrow. So I'm going to bring out a couple of those. So if you love handmade art journals, it's something that I used to make quite a bit. I've made probably, I don't know, close to 500. I sold a lot of them over the years, but I haven't made new journals in a while. So the other thing I want to mention before you go is there is going to be one more bonus. If you sign up for the membership, I'm actually going to teach a fun swatch journal class live. So I hopefully will have a sample or somewhat of a sample of it next week, and so I'll be sharing more. But definitely, if you want to get the bonuses before the early bird bonus, before it closes, do that today, so you can get there from the link in my video, or if you just go to tracibautistacolor and click on pigment bars at the top, you can get to all the information about becoming a member of the Pigment Bar Box. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. I hope you really enjoyed that peek into the creative process of the making of a paint collection. There is so much that goes into it, and I hope that you are inspired. I hope it also gives you an idea of not only how the paints are made, but that whole process that I shared is what I teach in my inspiration sketchbook, my new book, and also my online program. So that same framework is what I use to develop a lot of my own work, but I also use it to develop products. So thanks, everybody, and I will see you in the next live. Don't forget to join me for Wanderlust Live, and also join me as a Traci Bautista subscriber, Traci Bautista Color subscriber. Okay, everybody, take care. I will see you later. Bye. Have a great day.